And while cancer didn't take a break during the pandemic, the help is even greater. Joining us now is going to be Gina Kell Spehn. She is the co-founder and president for New Day Foundation for Families. Thank you for being with us here on the MegaCast.
Oh, thanks for having me, Ronnie. I appreciate it.
For those not familiar with your organization, do you want to give us a little bit of background?
Sure, absolutely. Our organization is here to, excuse me, to provide financial and emotional support to families who are affected by cancer. So, both my husband and myself lost our first spouses to cancer. We've been through this on a number of occasions. We have a child who's battled brain cancer. We've seen it up close and personal. And 13 years ago decided we wanted to help and give back to this community. And what we didn't realize was just how great the need really was. So we started to work with families to assess their needs and figure out what are the financial burdens you're facing right now that have nothing to do with the medical costs. Even it's above and beyond. It's how, the inability to pay bills once you've lost income because you can't work because you're battling cancer or caregiving for someone who is. So we stepped in, we pay bills, but it's become even much more than that over these last few years.
Yeah, and you have such an amazing organization that is doing such important work. What's it been like during the pandemic? Is the need greater or is it less?
Well, as you might imagine, for cancer patients, this has really been like a 1-2 punch, right? So what we're seeing with COVID is sort of like everyone's eyes were open to what it's like to live with a health crisis compounded by a financial crisis. Our families have been doing this for years. This is what we know. This is the space we've been working in. So we weren't really caught completely off guard by this. We were instead, we felt like, wow, we're totally prepared and ready and equipped to handle this problem. But it was multiplied, no doubt. I mean, these families were directly slammed by cancer, followed by COVID, followed by the world shutting down, and we saw an increased demand, but also significant delays in care, which also compound financial crisis later. So there's a bit of a delayed reaction for some of these families. So they're getting diagnosed later, they're getting staged higher. So what would have been a stage 1 or stage 2 diagnosis becomes a 3 or 4 because we waited 3, 6, 9 months to get care. Avoiding it, didn't want to go to hospitals, doctors unavailable, appointments unavailable, things like that. So we really saw the need increase over time. One of the things we really saw was people not wanting to grocery shop and needing food. So we stepped up with a brand new program. We started grocery shopping and delivering food to families directly. So that's been something that really took off. Like we didn't even see it coming, how much the need would be there for that program, but it's been a fantastic way to help people during this time.
Because I mean, it seems so basic, but if you're afraid to walk out the front door, the one place you have to go to is the grocery store. And I think so many people say, well, they can deliver now. But there are challenges with having those home deliveries as well. And as you mentioned, for some of these families, it's just a matter of maybe not even having the money to be able to buy those groceries.
Well, that really was a huge part of it. I mean, we used to provide the grocery support. We used to provide the grocery gift cards to families and we had a lot of help and support from Kroger and other companies who would provide us with some gift cards. But we recognized that getting out, getting into the stores and getting the food was the biggest issue, even more frankly than the cost of it. But we're doing both. So that we've recruited about 110 volunteers now. They will go out, they will grocery shop for a family. They pay for the groceries themselves, but then they can, depending on their choice, they can either donate those groceries and have it be out of their own pocket, and we provide them with a tax receipt, or they can get reimbursement. So they just have to provide receipts and proof of delivery and things like that, and then we can actually reimburse them. So the programs work really seamlessly, and I'd say after doing this for 13 years, I've seen a lot of thank you notes and a lot of heartfelt gratitude from a lot of people. But this particular program, it was amazing how many people responded with so much gratitude. Things like, it's so good to have food in the house. The simplest things, or just thank you for saving us from having to go into the stores. We're terrified. We don't want to do this. And it's been it's been really rewarding in that regard to see that it's really truly having an impact and making a difference in their lives.
So while the need has been greater, so many nonprofits are also struggling with fundraising during this time because you can't fundraise the way you used to be able to. How has that been for you and your team members?
Well, thankfully, because of so much, I'm telling you what, we live in an amazing state. The state of Michigan, the communities, the different various counties, they really truly did rally and come together to support the nonprofit community. For us personally, I can tell you we've had the best year that we've ever had in terms of fundraising, and we've helped more families than we've ever helped before in a year. And that was due largely in part to grant writing and the ability for grant funding to be available to help this exact type of family. So we saw Oakland County, for example, the United Way of Southeast Michigan partnered with Oakland County to award grants. We were fortunate to receive $100,000 of that. That's just one example. So, and it's made a huge difference. And what we've been able to do with that money has been remarkable. I mean, what we've seen with food insecurity alone has been tremendous, but keeping people in their homes and keeping the utilities and the lights on, even the utility companies are kind of helping out a little bit. You know, we're not going to shut your water off. We're going to give it a minute because we understand everybody's in a crisis. So yeah, we've fundraising wise, I mean, let's talk about events for a second. We lost probably somewhere between $150,000 $200,000 in event revenue in second quarter alone. And that did not include our gala that we were trying to figure out what we were going to do with. We went virtual like a lot of others did. We managed to have lower expenses, so we actually raised more money with the event. So the sponsors stepped up. The community's been incredibly supportive, and we're so grateful because we truly could not do this if we didn't have that support from our local business partners and sponsors and individual donors who really made a huge difference this year.
So with that, going into 2021,
Mhm.
how do you think what you went through in 2020 has changed how you're going to operate going forward into this next new year?
That's a great question. We were talking about this because when we were planning for 2020, right, at the end of 19, we were looking at 20 and making strategic plans and all these things, and completely blew up by March 1st, pretty much. It was whatever we had planned for didn't happen, and we had to completely rearrange our thoughts and direction. For us as an organization, we're looking at this a couple of ways. Number one, we still need to be strategic and have good planning and really lay out the groundwork for what we hope to see happen, but remaining entirely flexible and truly like relying on our board members for their expertise, guidance. That's been really helpful for us. We have some great board members who have a lot of business experience and helping us. So, leaning on mentors, leaning on board members, trusting the strategic plans that we have, but knowing that they may not mean anything in a matter of weeks from now because there really aren't necessarily going to hold up. But we're flexible, we're rolling with it, and we're continuing to hopefully nurture and grow the relationships that we built through 2020.
So in the sea of so many different nonprofits, how do you work to get your voice out there to be able to reach the people that most desperately need the help right now?
Well, for us, collaboration is a very important piece of what we do. So working with them, working with other nonprofits, so that the ultimate goal isn't how can we get our voice out above and beyond others. It's more a matter of how can we work together to help people. And the minute that becomes your focus, the minute that focusing on the support that you're providing and the people that you're serving, if that's your real focus, the rest will follow. So we prioritize people first. The other nonprofits in this community are phenomenal, and we are grateful, and we need each other as organizations to stay afloat, to serve people, and to help them get all the resources that they need, because there's not one organization that can do it all. And so to me, it's a group effort, and getting the word out is a matter of doing the good work.
So your story blossomed out of a tragedy and the loss of your husband as well as your husband's wife, but they made a Hallmark movie out of it. I did see it a few months ago. It was on a rerun because it's a few years old. But Does that help set you apart as well and to be able to share your message?
It does. I think every nonprofit, I shouldn't say every, but most nonprofits have a story behind them, right? They started with somebody, some tragedy in some cases. For us, definitely, I will say that the first 5 years that we were an organization, there was no book, there was no movie, and we were just kind of at the kitchen counter doing this work. But what happened was, the book, we finally wrote the book. It got published by the grace of God. Don't even know how it happened truly. And now it's out in the world and able to build us a platform. That made all the difference for us, truly. It did. And it was what led me to doing this work for full time as my life's work. And it's been the greatest gift that I could have ever received. It took everything I ever did in my life before this, and it all came together in this organization. And now I get to use all the gifts and talents that I have to serve this community. And that's my life's work and my greatest gift, truly.
Just a couple more minutes here with you. The name of the book is The Color of Rain. With that, though, my twin sister has a nonprofit as well called the Sweet Dreams Project that she's a co-founder with. And I've had the pleasure to work on some of the rooms with her because they do fantasy bedrooms for kids that are chronically or terminally ill. But it can also be emotionally draining. How do you manage to keep yourself propped up when you're dealing with some of these people and the tragedies that they're going through?
That's for me personally, it's my faith is a big part of what kind of grounds me and keeps me on my feet and not kind of collapsing under the pressure of of all the tragedy that surrounds us. I feel like I was gifted with the ability to compartmentalize. um, there's that. I sometimes think about it. We walk into hospitals every day, and there's oncologists, serving cancer patients, and we don't ever think to ask them that question. But when it comes to a nonprofit, we do. For me, I have joy every day knowing that we're taking people's tragic situations and making them a little bit softer, a little bit easier. And so to me, there's joy in that. So I feel more of that than I feel of the weight of the tragedy of it all.
Gina, here before we let you go, she is the co-founder and president for the New Day Foundation for Families. You help families that are going through cancer. How can people get involved, and what is your greatest need right now?
Well, a couple ways. First of all, we have a website you can visit and you can read about some of the programs that we have and how you might like to get involved. It's foundationforfamilies.org. Right now, we're still seeking volunteers to help with the grocery program to shop and deliver groceries. That program continues to grow, even on the west side of the state. So we're expanding out further into the more rural areas as well. So we just need that kind of support. If people are willing to, we'd love to have you on board.
So again, Gina, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your story, and also you and what you do and the members of your team must be such a blessing for so many of these families. Something as small as getting groceries or helping them keep their lights on could make all the difference in the world. And I would imagine even more so now in the middle of a pandemic, because the financial strain and the emotional strain can be probably overwhelming at times for some of these families.
It really is. And I know I didn't mention this, but we have an emotional support program that just started this year. We have a network of counselors now. That's another cool thing. So I'm just so happy to be able to do it. Thank you for, sharing some time with me today. It means a lot to us and it is a huge blessing. So thank you.